So, welcome to FM Thoughts. I am JMThoughts, and today I am talking to EloiseMomo. Hello, Eloise.
Heyo.
Heyo. Welcome to the podcast. Fantastic start. Usually we start these by asking if you've got an update on a Football Manager save that you currently have. However, we were just talking before the podcast that might be a very interesting question for you to answer. But I'm still going to ask you it. Have you got a Football Manager save you're playing at the moment?
So I've been quite burnt out of this FM. It's been a bit hard to get something going because I think at the start of the game cycle I did a couple kind of like I wanted to do a journeyman save. So I was trying to go to Sparta Rotterdam and I got sacked within a year. I think I tried Lyon and there was a weird glitch in the game which sacked me just after I did my first transfer window, and so I just kind of got a bit frustrated. So it's been more so finding something I'm interested in. I've got a Bath City because my local team are tier 6, so I've done a Bath City save. So that's kind of what I'm doing offline, and then I've got plans to do something on stream very soon to kind of get me back into focusing on the career mode.
Interesting. So I've seen you streaming a fair bit, but it's been very much draft mode. So it's interesting that you've had this offline save, but you've not found something. You've not found your rhythm with something that you want to play online and really get into. Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah. It's just maybe not necessarily streaming as much as I should, but doing it for draft mode, which, yeah.
So let's talk about draft mode. What's so appealing about draft mode?
Drafts are very easy to get into. If that's just doing community drafts or getting into ranked drafts, if you're a streamer, you can get into ranked drafts and they're a bigger deal. But they are very easy to get into because they happen almost daily, and you can just put a few hours into it and it's done. You know, it's not like a big commitment or a thing you can get burnt out of, which you can still get burnt out of draft mode, which I am feeling that right now because of the amount I play. But I don't know why I like it so much. It's just you tend to hang around with people you like and talk, and it's also a test of your knowledge and your tactics and everything in FM. So it's just a little it's a nice refresher. If you're fed up of the monotony of normal FM, then you've got this completely different way of playing the game, and you just hang out with people. So it's definitely a very good thing in the game,
and it's something where you can just get your friends together over one night, bring them together, play something, or even join another tournament that's already out there. There's quite a lot of Football Manager streamers and YouTubers that will do their own draft modes, won't they?
Yeah, I'm glad there's so many tournaments. Like I spend most of my time, I almost make sure I do the Cossack Cup every week because it's just so much fun, and there are so many good tournaments like it, and it's just so worth getting into drafting.
So let's talk about draft mode. Let's talk about what it looks like when you first load in. You go into these various menu screens. You can decide to search for the name of a draft or filter for your friends if you've got them on Steam or whatever. Or I suppose on console, maybe if you've got them added on the console as your friends on Xbox or whatever. Then you join the game and you're presented with what looks like a search screen, like when you're searching for players, similar to like what you're searching for players in your own save. Initially, you've usually got that period where you're shortlisting players, where you're sort of building a shortlist again like you would do on a normal save, but then that's going to be your basis for players that you draft, you buy with your budget to form the team that will then go into the tournament. Do you want to explain a little bit more about that, maybe your approach to shortlisting?
Yeah, so my approach to shortlisting is I have one huge shortlist that my friend Hot Cocklet made for me. Well, made in general, and we all use. And it is like probably 600, 700 players long, and it's just got like most of the players that are generally worth it, and not because obviously there are some players that are maybe not on the shortlist that are slightly more expensive than you'd want to spend, but it depends on the pool, depends on the budget, depends on everything. But generally, the ones on the shortlist are ones that you would want most of the time. So they're kind of safe bets. And then I suppose drafting selecting players is slightly different to making a team in like single player, but you are trying to get a team to work to your strategy. Or at least I am. like your tactic, your players that will mold and do what you want them to. And I suppose you don't draft as like because in normal FM you try to go for younger players so they can grow. Whereas you don't really need that. You need the players that can perform for you in the now. So it's more so finding the best players possible with the amount of money you've been given in the draft.
And in some ways, that's always going to be subjective. Some people are going to be willing to pay. You might have a £300 million budget. Someone like Erling Haaland's going to cost you £100 million. They might be willing to pay that because they think it's worth it, but other people might not. And as you go through, you can add to this shortlist. You can change it and export it and save it, which is something that people might not know you can do on a normal save as well, as you can import and export these shortlists. So, do you think it's important to have a plan? Because it is obviously possible to also just forget about shortlists and literally just search by your attributes and just kind of make it up as you go along. Is that something you've tried?
Yeah, every time I've done that personally, it never goes well. It's like I think, oh, I'm going to try something different, and it just unravels immediately. So you need something tried and tested, and just kind of knowledge of the players that you want. And obviously, there's trial and error, but you just generally have a look at the players and pick the right ones. But there are definitely people who go into drafts not knowing what they go, and they just pick, and then they will make something on the fly, and they do well at that. So it's definitely a personal thing, but I think most people know what they're drafting for tactic wise and will go for that.
And that doesn't have to be something super fancy, like some of these sort of, for lack of a better word, professional drafters, the highly competitive drafters will have a system, they'll have it down to the wire, but if you're just starting out, at least having in your mind, okay, I'm going to play 4-4-2, I want a strike partnership, and I want 2 midfielders, 2 wide players, or I'm going to play a 4-3-3, so I'm going to make sure I've got these fast players on the wing. Just having like a general sense of what structure you're going to play really helps. We've talked a little bit about draft in general and kind of more stereotypical draft modes. Should we talk a little bit about when I last faced you in draft, which was certainly one of the crazier drafts that I've been involved in? It's sort of an example of taking it to a really kind of wacky, fun place. That was an interesting one.
Yes, so it was because we were obviously in the FM World Heavyweight Championship Gauntlet where it was obviously started off with 2 players, and then the winner of that plays the next player, and then until they get to the champ Kev. And our stipulation was 4150 stipulation, which is Michael trying to annoy big man on campus Chuck by the stipulation was no attacking players, so no strikers, no wide attacking players or central attacking players. Just everyone who can play those positions are at the pool, which was not fun because we both kind of went with strikerless tactics, and then you suddenly got back into the game by putting a striker up there for someone who can't play striker but just a random striker, and it worked.
And just to be clear, this draft pool was no natural attacking players at all. So when you're setting up the draft, you can edit via nationality or via league, but you can also edit via things like height or position. And in this case, all of the players that could play any attacking role, so that includes, attacking midfielder, wingers, striker, and we're not even talking about players that play those positions. We're talking about players that can play those positions. If it's a midfielder that can play attacking midfield, they're out, even if they can't play it well. So basically your only midfielders are defensive midfielders. If that, it's wing backs, it's centre backs. And I think in that second game, nothing was happening. We just took the chance of putting, I think, maybe some centre backs up front as target forwards to see what happens. It was interesting.
Yeah, that second leg was sort of, the first one was 0-0, wasn't it? And then the second leg was 4-3. Something bonkers like that, and yeah. So I used a tactic that I know breaks the engine and is very good against normal formations, but you weren't playing a normal formation, so it didn't work. So you'd probably want you'd normally want attacking players in the midfield 5 because it was 4-1-5-0. You'd want those attacking midfielders, and then a traditional striker is the central midfielder, and that's how it works. But I didn't have any of that. It was just midfielders that I just kind of plopped in there. and it didn't work. So it was a bit of a nightmare, and I felt like I was very unlucky, but it was a chaos dip, and that's how it goes.
So, having said that, how much do you feel luck versus skill plays out in draft mode? Is it the best player of Football Manager that wins, or is it very much luck dependent?
So I would say a lot of draft mode is luck, and there is a luck on lots of variables, but generally the people who are, for example, on top of the draft rankings or have won competitions, they know what they're doing and they draft properly and they're consistent, or some are consistent. So it's kind of like a balance between having the luck on the day and going in with the right players, with the right tactic, with the right mentality, with the right decisions mid game, and that just all weighing in your balance. Because, for example, a week ago I was in the final of Road to Legends, which shout out Road to Legends. I obviously do stuff behind the scenes, but they let me be in the final. Well, let me be in the groups. I won Group C, and then I was in the final last week. I feel like I could have drafted better. The issue was I just didn't have the luck. I went up against strong opponents, and the luck swayed against me in the first two games, and then I played against the eventual champion Owen, and somehow didn't lose until the last minute, but I was getting absolutely destroyed, and that was my players' morale just completely gone. There was no chance, and it was just kind of like my chances were dead. But the other two games I could have very much won, and it was very close. So there is luck, but it's also kind of a skill as well. So I feel like as a competitive thing, it is very good, but not every person who does it ranked wise takes it as seriously as someone else. Like there is a range, but yeah, to answer that, yeah, I think it is a good competitive thing. It's fun mainly.
I guess as well as that kind of skill and tactical side, the third component is mentality and mindset, and the psychological side. You've got the tactics, you've got the luck, and I think the psychology plays a huge role. I was knocked out eventually in that tournament that I faced you in by United City FM Kev, who was the reigning champion. It went to extra time in the end game, and I remember was interviewed after, and I sort of dismissed that it was my inexperience that cost me. But I think probably it was because I was panicking a little bit in those last moments because I'd never won anything. I was right on the edge of glory of silverware, and Kev was cool as a cucumber because he's done it before. He was the reigning champion. He's won multiple things, so his mind was clear. And another great example is if people think about the Streamer Showdown, which was this big tournament built on competitive Football Manager, and that had Lelujo, another Kev, another streamer who's quite good at draft, and he won in the end I think 8 times, and there's just no way if it was purely luck based that would happen at all. But he was starting to get into the heads of his opponents, and they would be changing and they would be intimidated by him, and that's partly why he managed to win so many times. So there's definitely also that kind of mentality there. It's luck plays a big part, but there are those other factors that make it exciting as well.
Yeah, using the Luigi example is great because he would turn up, not even draft the best team. He would then tactical wise, which I was going to mention earlier, I forgot. You can just go with a preset tactic, like a 4-3-3 gegenpress. But he would do like a preset gegenpress and then go and win the whole thing, and just get in people's head who've made these like perfectly crafted like asymmetric like messes of formations, and he would just smash them with a 4-2-3-1, and that psychologically he was one of the best, because FM ranked drafting is very similar to wrestling, like the way some people treat it, because they try to do like they try to make almost characters of themselves, and Kev very much was that. Lujo was very much that, and I suppose Kev's done that too. He's made a character of himself, and kind of having fun banter before games, and kind of creating these like big stories to make people more interested in playing, as well as making it more interesting for the person who's playing it. So psychology is definitely something, because I when I'm in tournaments I make stupid decisions and I try to go to attacking because I really want something when I know that I should have played more cautious, and I would have probably got the result I wanted rather than trying to attack still. So it's psychology is definitely a thing as well, and maybe those players have better psychology. I don't know.
I guess that's kind of what makes it. It's not going to be for everyone, but if you wanna do feel like, what is it like for? Because it's not the same, like it's a stripped back version of the game, but you're still, you've got your tactic screens. The in match looks very, very similar, but I guess it's like, what would it feel like if you were playing, instead of the AI, you're playing another person and they're adapting to your tactics, and they're making substitutions, and there is something fun about that. I think particularly if you do enjoy the tactical side of the game or the drama of those big moments, there is very much something about playing a human player that brings that. I think if you're much more interested in the narrative of building a club or developing young players or whatever, then obviously you don't really have that to the same extent in draft mode. Although, player development aside, there is something about, I guess, how these tournaments or competitions, they all run into each other. They do create a kind of fun narrative of even though you're starting from a point of zero every time, people start to know, oh well, this player has done some ridiculous things, and so they end up with almost like a weird cult around them. So players like Andy Carroll or Morgan Gamps Pedersen or whatever, they have performed in ways that just don't make sense, and so people get excited about them. And there is that element of being excited about players, like you might be excited about a Wonder Kid, I suppose.
Or I'd be excited about Yusuf Poulsen, is kind of my kind of because I've noticed players have one player that maybe no one else rates, but they think is the greatest thing on earth and is almost like a first pick, and that's Yusuf Poulsen for me, because I think I first found him at the start of the game in an RTL pool. My RTL qualifiers, it was the first ever ranked draft I ever did, and I picked Yusuf Poulsen not expecting anything and not thinking he'd be any good, and he absolutely carried me. And then throughout the whole year I've been playing Yusuf Poulsen drafts, and he's been amazing because I know what I can get from him and I know what's best for him.
Absolutely. Slightly distracted by Frank screaming and running around in the background.
Hi, Frank.
Frank the cat. But yes, totally. And I guess there is something brilliant about that when you have a system and there's certain players that you just want in that system to make it work, or just weird things. So in the FM Super League qualifiers, where the pool in this case was just infinite money, and so everyone's drafting Mbappe and Haaland and whatever, but for some reason I think I got all the way to semi-final just playing Haaland as a target forward, and it didn't make sense, but target forward on support Haaland was amazing, and it was so funny, but just because all of the players were elite, so actually telling Haaland just use your physicality to support the players around you worked really well. So yeah, you end up with weird things where players fit systems. I mean, that's a kind of a stupid example of taking a player that's always amazing and arguably making them worse, but it kind of works. But yeah, you will get a player where Harry Maguire, where in real life rubbish, and in some systems on Football Manager rubbish, but actually I guess a little bit like England at times. You're playing a low block, you're going for corner cheese, actually you might get a tune out of Harry Maguire. Or people who will draft someone like Kane and play them as a shadow striker or a central midfielder because it really works. Again, both bad examples because they're expensive players. This is why I'm not very good at draft mode, everyone.
Yeah, so I can give you an example of a really weird player that I've seen people use. Is Ruben Loftus-Cheek as a shadow striker on the left hand side.
There you go.
I don't know why it works, but it works. So yeah, there's lots of examples of that. Also, you said an unlimited pool. Yeah, you can pick all these amazing players because it doesn't cost anything. I'd still pick Yusuf Poulsen. So
there you go, because you know how to get that player to work.
Yeah, and he's the best striker in the game. So
do you think draft mode appeals more to maybe people that have a better understanding of current football because they can draft the players that they see in real life? Whereas Football Manager, obviously, every season you go, it's deviating more from real life.
I'm not sure if that's the case, because I probably don't have as much knowledge as I maybe should have, or I don't have maybe the best tactic knowledge, but I just love the fun, competitive edge. But there are definitely people who do play it because they know the players, but I generally think you're very much able to be really good at draft mode and not know any of the players. You just know what you're looking for attributes wise or certain things wise. Like, for example, one of the best things to look for in this FM is who's quick, who's got pace, and that generally works. So you don't need to know who the players are to get a job for them or to necessarily pick them. So not necessarily, but it helps, I suppose.
That makes sense. So we've alluded to it a little bit, but it is a little bit broken though, isn't it? Like, what are some of the craziest things you've seen draft mode do, or some of your irritations with draft mode in terms of how it works as in a functional way?
So draft mode has absolutely no faults, and it is the most perfect game mode you could ever have. It is completely not broken, and yeah. So there are countless amounts of bugs in draft mode of like just it makes no sense, and it's not like they've appeared this year. They've been in draft mode for 3 to 4 years almost. Like it's a thing that they never really tweak. They never really fix most of the bugs in draft mode. They just kind of layer on kind of extra things or just kind of leave it, which I mean, it does make sense considering not many players play draft mode compared to the normal game, so you'd want to focus on the normal game. But it's frustrating for the people who are passionate about the game mode, or for example ranked tournaments. That's the whole thing, is they focus on draft mode. That's what their content is a group of people who make a competition about a mode which is a little bit buggy and doesn't work very well most of the time. So which is also why a lot of the competitions do drafts and then switch to a database, so they don't have to encounter all of the shenanigans with draft mode.
And that's quite a lot of work, though, isn't it? Because what they're then doing is they're using the draft function to pick the players, and then they're creating a custom league with building teams in that league that have those players. And often they'll take a league like Gibraltar, and then they will go and change all the Gibraltar teams to be the names of the people, and they'll move all the players in the pre-game editor to those teams, which gives like a much smoother experience, but is a crazy amount of effort, and you don't get that in your kind of casual tournaments.
Yeah, because there is a appeal to that. Like almost all the big tournaments do that, but then there's also an appeal to the other side of just a normal draft, which is because I think most ranked tournaments do separate databases, and it's effort, but it makes the final product good, and they can do whatever they want. They're not restricted by the rules of draft mode. They can make the tournaments as big or small as they want, and everything runs smooth. Whereas there are tournaments like RTL who do draft and games in one night, so it's just one solid night of just normal draft mode, and there are some issues, but then that happens in all the drafts. So it's generally quite smooth sailing, because there's little workarounds of trying to make the process smooth. And
I'm sorry, I just like in terms of the game, like we're talking about glitches, so things happen like the countdown timer will pause when you're looking at a player, or sometimes things won't go through. We recently did a Jaffa community draft, where the thing was so horrendously broken, and we just decided to go with it because it was hilarious. But it broke in a way that it's hard to explain how incredibly amazingly broke this was. So basically, in Football Manager, if you've ever done a network save, you can set a timer so that it moves, the game forces you to move on. And you can do the same in draft mode. You can give all the players 10 seconds, a minute, whatever, to make their tactical changes, and then the game will force continue everybody on to the next stage. Because, particularly if you're doing like a league and you've got every single Premier League team managed by a person, that's kind of part of it. Somehow this draft mode got that stuck on 10 seconds for everything. So you had 10 seconds to give a team talk, you had 10 seconds between matches to organise your tactics, you had 10 seconds to make tactical changes in the game, and when it hit when it hit like 0 on that 10 seconds, there seemed to be a 1 in 4 chance that it would just kick you into spectator mode. So basically, this draft, nobody could make changes between each game, and in each game, by the 60th minute, all the managers were spectating all the matches, and it was just potluck as to whether you got kicked out in the first 10 minutes of the game or you got kicked out in the 70th minute. And then sometimes the AI managers, when you're in spectator mode, basically the AI takes over your team, and sometimes the AI managers would just completely change the tactics, take all the players off. Like, it was the insanest thing I've ever done, but it was also amazing. But it clearly should not have been happening. So I can only imagine if that had happened in a major tournament. It was amazing.
No, did it cause any divergences?
No, we didn't have a single divergence.
What?
Which a divergence is when what's displaying on one person's thing is different to someone else, and so you end up with like different results in games. But no, everything stayed on the level and fine. And maybe this is, I feel like divergence has been slightly improved. But yeah, this was just really funny because, sometimes people were deliberately getting the AI to take over their team because they were doing better, and I remember screaming at my AI manager because he made 0 changes in a game we were losing 2-0. So it's just, that's the kind of thing you have to go with draft mode, which is kind of why sometimes these tournaments, I mean, that's very rare and also quite funny.
It is,
but,
it is chaos, yeah. Like, I feel like most big tournaments have kind of got lucky. That there have been instances recently, but that isn't necessarily just the draft mode. That's just FM in general on multiplayer. And I've been like in a club shop cup before where basically it's happened multiple times. I think where basically in the knockouts, the game weeks should be like both the semi-finals should be playing at the same time, but actually it staggers it. So one semi-final at a time, which means you have to wait around for just so long, like wait for the first game to finish and then play the game, and it's just there are just different things that just kind of make you be like, why am I playing this? It's just plain torture. But I don't know why we play it. Why do we play it?
Because it's fun. It's fun. I suppose the revelation in the recent blog about the fact that they're building FM25 in a completely new engine probably explains why they've not bothered to fix stuff with something that only 6% of the player base play, because I imagine they are probably hopefully rebuilding draft mode in the new engine that is not going to be as glitchy. I mean, it might be the first year, it might be even more glitchy, but like it kind of makes sense because there is a lot of bugs and they have not fixed a lot of them.
Nope.
So all things considered, everything we've talked about today, would you still recommend draft mode? And if someone was listening to this and was like, I want to try that, what would you say to them?
So 100%. That's even everything negative I've said. It's very much a thing you should try at least once, and even if it's with friends or if it's in like a community or in general, it's generally a thing that I would recommend to do. And the way you can get involved is find a community that does drafts. A good way is to find what drafts are going on Twitter or X or Twitter, whatever. Yeah, Twitter is FM Draft Diary, and they list every single draft that's going on in that week. So you can see if it's a community draft, you can then get involved there and take part. And everyone's welcome. Everyone is just there to have fun. And then ranked tournaments are mainly for streamers, and you just kind of have to just show interest or maybe drop DMs to a competition asking what you have to do to get in. And generally they're a very good way to, if you are a streamer, to get your first kind of foray into draft mode, because I got my first chance in draft mode, and then that kind of in RTL, and that kind of opened doors up for other competitions. So I've been in like countless other competitions just because of that one draft. So it's don't just get involved and just have fun and just kind of get into the community and do normal stuff in the community, and then you'll slowly get noticed by these draft competitions that want to inquire in if you're interested or not. So it's just something to get fun and have fun and just kind of have a go at.
And there's so many draft tournaments as well. People talk a lot about it being like wrestling, which I don't know a lot about, but I think it's probably similar in the way that the tournament structure is now, that it's kind of similar to something like tennis or golf, where like you won't immediately get an invite, or you won't be ranked and you won't get an invite to one of the major tournaments, but there are always these smaller tournaments, and you kind of start, you have some fun. If you're good at the game, although to be honest it's kind of more important that you're not a dickhead, then you will get invited to more things, and that's kind of like there's that side of it that is about kind of being good, but ultimately the people that are organising, and I guess when you get to those bigger tournaments, that's where that kind of wrestling metaphor comes in slightly more. They're looking to create a spectacle, so they're going to pick the best drafters, but they're also going to pick people they know that are going to be reliable or are going to be a good laugh or whatever. So it's just about like getting involved, practicing, and you'll eventually kind of get those invites and work your way through through the community drafts and then through the smaller tournaments.
For sure, It's not purposely limiting the amount of people. It's just kind of, you can't go with tons of people because you need to actually have a product that can not go on for hours. You don't. Most tournaments are like 8 players max on like a night, because any more than it just drags on for too long. So
totally, which is why it's great that there's so many different things that people can get involved in.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because there are some bigger tournaments which are hard to get into, but there are some tournaments that actively search for new streamers or smaller streamers or people who haven't drafted before. Like I don't want to mention so much, but Road to Legends does that actively. Yeah. So it's a very good gateway, as well as I think all the competitions really search for new people. So it's just if you're interested, then people will take notice, I suppose, and it's so worth it. It's so fun, and I mean, if you like competitive stuff, then the rankings are good too.
Mm-hmm. What are you ranked at the moment?
Oh God.
Move on.
Yeah. I'm around the 60s because I also take part of draft leagues, and that's very up and down, and that's ranked. And some of my tournaments haven't been amazing, or if I do win like Road to Legends Group C, I only gained like 5 places. So it's the draft rankings are very like cemented at the moment. Yeah, I'm not very high, which it's not a huge deal, but yeah.
We are way over time, but we've covered a whole mode of Football Manager today. Thank you for joining me, Eloise. And is there anything you want to plug before you go?
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, you could follow me on Twitch, EloiseMomo.
Go do that.
I'm involved with countless different things in the drafts world. I suppose just
give us the list. Go on.
I mean, I take part in I'm part of the team of Road to Legends. I help out Super League playoffs, just any draft competition. Just give them love, support them, watch their game days or their draft days, and just kind of give love in the community, because that's all it's there for, is just people getting together and being lovely to each other, and just kind of showcasing how nice we are as a group. Yeah, just support the draft scene, because we deserve it too, I suppose. But yeah, that's really it.
Oh, thank you. Eloquently put, and a pleasure. And maybe we'll have you back at some point to talk about draft mode again. Maybe it'll completely change in FM24. Who knows?
Yeah, I'd love to be back.
The lovely EloiseMomo there, who puts in so much effort in the background of all of these draft tournaments. She's not the only one. There's loads of people you don't even know about who are beavering away, making all these things happen for the people that enjoy them. But thank you so much to her for taking time to talk to me today, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's coming up a little late. I think it'll come out on release day, but my goodness, Frank the cat was screaming and running around in the background, and at one point I muted my microphone, didn't unmute it, so there's a whole section of this podcast where I don't think you can tell, but I had to insert me asking the questions in after, because there was no audio recording of me asking the questions at the time, so we run a tight ship here. Frank, not a fan of the podcast, but if you did enjoy this, please do give it a rating, share it with your friends, and if you want to see more of Frank, you can see it on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/JMThoughts. But as Eloise said, this is really the episode about drafts, so go check out some of those draft tournaments. I'm putting lots of links in the description, in the show notes of this podcast, to go check those out. And give it a try and let us know if you have enjoyed it. You can tweet me at JMThoughts on Twitter, or just let us know in whatever way. Let those draft competitions know if you've heard about them from this podcast. But otherwise, there's nothing else to say but to wish you well. Go well, friend.